Hello, my name is Dana Smith, and welcome to my Universal Consciousness channel. This is a platform that I created for like minds to come together and talk about universal consciousness, spiritual laws, or anything dealing with the spirit. You can always join me if you wanted to do a quick chat with me on my YouTube channel, Universal Consciousness. Now, today we have my good friend here, Reverend Brenda Schuck. She is going to be talking to us today about healing in the mind-spiritual connection. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today, Brenda, Reverend Brenda.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Dana. I'm thrilled to be here and very excited to be a part of what you're doing, this wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about the healing in the mind, body, and spiritual connection.
That's right.
Okay, so what do you have to tell us about that?
Well, first I'd like to say that I believe that we all come into this plane of existence to heal and to be healed, and to love and to be loved. The mind body spirit is, and we hear this phrase all the time, mind body spirit. Those concepts of mind, body, and spirit are things that we talk about as individual concepts because that's how we can speak about them, understand them, conceptualize, communicate, but they really operate as a unit, and each one affects the other. I have come to understand on my journey in this lifetime that everything that takes place in our lives is the universe bringing to us exactly what it is we need to grow. And another way to say that is it is the universe bringing to us exactly what we need to heal. Because we all come into life with various things that we as humans have in common. We have, most of us for much of our lifetime struggle with things like, am I good enough? Am I worthy? Am I lovable? Those kinds of things. And so the universe brings to us the exact relationships that we need, the circumstances, conditions, and everything that we need in order to heal those thoughts, to know, to grow into the awareness of the beautiful, perfect, divine beings that we really are. And I would just like to say, as an aside, for just a moment, that what's going on in the world now with COVID, and unfortunately, or fortunately, how you look at it in terms of the unrest that's going on in this country, this too is these are circumstances and conditions that are here to allow healing to take place for our planet and all of the people on our planet, to understand and begin to know that we are not separate. What I'd like to speak about now specifically is an experience that I had in my life that was pivotal for me in terms of my journey. And it was a huge wake-up call, and it illustrates what I'm talking about. And before I get into that little bit of a story, what I'd like to say is that we sometimes don't realize the power of our own minds. We often don't realize the power of our own minds. Every thought that we have, every emotion, every action that we take has some kind of effect. So I think of it as, if you think of a pebble being dropped into a pond or a pool of water, there are ripples that are going to go out from that. And that is, and then you have maybe other people around you who are dropping pebbles too, and those ripples are going out and they're all meeting and then doing all kinds of things. Well, this is what our thoughts do. They go out and they have a huge effect, not only on other people's lives, but on our own. So the experience that I had was 17 years ago. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and RSD. RSD is a less known autoimmune disease. It stands for, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I can't think for a second. We'll come back to that. It's not important. But that is an autoimmune disease of the sympathetic nervous system. And what I discovered after I was diagnosed, I went through a Western medicine treatment, and then I started to look at alternatives for myself. We have, in this country, we are not taught to rely very strongly on our intuition and what we know in our gut. And we have an intelligence that is that divine intelligence, but an intelligence that you see in nature, that you see that is throughout the body. The body is doing so many miraculous things every second, every day. And it has its own intelligence and really can heal itself. But we often are telling our bodies things that that go against that divine perfection, that nature. And I grew up in a home that was characterized by dysfunction. And I learned, I discovered later in life through this experience I'm going to describe that I lived in fight or flight in that kind of response mode for most of my life. That was how I lived. I went through one of the things I looked at after when I was looking for alternatives to heal, was meditation. And we know how powerful and wonderful meditation is. I went through a mindfulness meditation class, and the facilitator of that class led us through a fight or flight exercise. So we were led through a conceptualization of being threatened by a wild animal that, we were mortally threatened. And the body, the body goes into survival mode. And we know that to be fight or flight. I think a lot of us are familiar with that.
Right, yes.
And there's a lot of chemistry that goes on associated with that. One of the main things that happens is that your body becomes consumed with the activities that are necessary to survive. So it pumps blood to your vital organs and your extremities, because you may need to run. Okay, so you need your muscles to be working and all that kind of thing. What's not happening is that the organs that are involved in those unconscious kinds of activity, like digestion, heart rate, and things like that, body temperature, they're not being served. They're not being served. They're not receiving the oxygen in the blood. So that is what is known as the unconscious functions of the body. In this case, I liken it to the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is all those functions that go on unconsciously: breathing, respiration, body temperature, and many other things.
Okay.
And so this way of living in the world and thinking in the world, where I was so focused on protecting myself, so filled with fear,
right,
literally translated into a disease that manifested in my body.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that largely is what happens with many diseases. And autoimmune diseases are among them. Both MS and RSD are autoimmune diseases. Stress is a huge factor for any disease, the development of any disease. But the point that I want to make is that, and I guess there was a lot that went on in my life at the time that was intuitive. I felt that when I had that experience in the meditation, I thought it was such a clear connection between how I'd lived my life and the manifestation of this disease in my body. It was a huge aha moment. And I left that class absolutely sobbing.
Wow.
Sobbing because I was overcome by this sense of grief and loss. But what I began to realize was that if thought could produce disease, result in disease, then thought could possibly also change that reality. And so I have a lot of gratitude for that, for the way I grew up, for that disease, and for other things that have happened in my life that have been the moments that have caused me to ask questions. And so I thought to myself, I don't have to live the rest of my life this way. Things can change. I can change the way I'm thinking. And that's where this mind, body, spirit connection comes in. We are so focused on the outer world.
Yes.
And we look to the outer for everything, for validation, for everything in our lives. And if you look at medicine, if you look at health, if we develop a disease or just even a common, illness, we go right to popping the pimples.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Excuse me. And what I began to discover was that that the greatest part of healing comes from going within.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I was led during that time to various practices and ultimately to spiritual practices that have changed my life. And so I've experienced physical healing. I'm still on that journey, believe me. Just like we all are.
Yes,
I have many miles to walk still, much distance to cover. But there is such a connection between what's going on in our minds and what happens in our bodies. And we need to learn to trust ourselves, to trust our internal intelligence, what our guts and hearts are telling us. And we need to be so aware of, as much as we can be, of what our thinking is and how are we treating ourselves with that thinking. I mean, how many times have I passed a mirror and been just judgmental, been involved in some kind of whatever activity is during the day? It could be incredibly positive. I remember the one thing that felt like a judgment or something negative, and I focus on that. We do so many things to ourselves, but if we can begin to harness the ability to be aware of our thoughts and change them, we can make huge changes in our lives, and we can heal ourselves. I just want to mention there are so many people that whose work you can read who talk about this. So there are many resources to go to. But I guess the point is to, if something's occurring in your life, and I'm not just talking about physical disease, because we have emotional healing that needs to take place, and different kinds of healing that we what we want to be doing is asking ourselves, what was, what's my part in this? What's this here to teach me? And what's within my control to change it? And we don't have a lot of control in our lives except over ourselves.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's really where to start. And as I said before, this experience specifically has been a huge beautiful, wonderful thing in my life. And I have come to understand that mind, body, and spirit do not exist separately from each other. Each one has an effect on the next. And when we can align mind, body, and spirit,
Right.
we are not only powerful beings, we are healthy beings, we are joyful beings, we are doing good in the world. We have a positive influence on everyone and everything around us. So
it's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story. That is awesome. And I know that will be inspiring to a lot of other people. It's definitely inspiring to me. Because one of the things that you were saying too is about, I like the part where you went to the seminar and then they did that little skit with you. You know,
yes,
that was so good because you came face to face. So then you knew what you could change in your own thinking. Because a lot of people don't realize the physical always follows the emotional traumas that's going on in your mind, you know. And you know, another thing is too, a lot of people don't take the time to get in tune with what's going on in their own mind and in their own body. So it's great that that's something that you learned early on.
yes, and you know, it's true. I mean, and we're in a society, like, we are very busy. Everybody's very busy. We're so connected to technology and other things we've just gotten away from. We haven't learned, you know, to connect to ourselves, and we've gotten away from connecting to Mother Nature and things. But yes, it's vitally important. And
that's one of the things that I had to learn too, was to take time to just be still. My husband always get after me from being busy, busy, busy. If I'm not doing real estate, and I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, and I always say, well, I don't watch TV, but it's okay to just sit down with a book or just sit down and relax sometimes, you know. So I've learned to actually just take it easy. I take my breaks in the morning. When I get up, I do meditate, you know, so I do take the time to get away from all external things so I can know what's going on with Dana, you know. So that's a process and a practice that I've been doing like every day for probably like more than 4 or 5 years. So
that's awesome.
so it is a great help, you know, in your health and the way you think, even the way I handle certain things that's, you know, that you feel is out of your control. You approach them differently. You know, because you don't always feel so, I can only speak for me, that I don't always feel so anxious, you know, so
yes.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so that's very good that you shared that, you know. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, this is what I say: when we come into life to heal and to be healed, we are healing. You know, we are here to share life experience with each other. Absolutely. And that, you know, that's how we learn. That's one of the ways we learn.
And it's no better teacher than experience. Because you can always share from your experience. Yeah. So yeah. So you can share. So we always can share from that point. You know, you do better, then you can tell someone else how they can actually do better.
Yes.
So awesome. Well, do you want to leave anyone with any last thoughts of healing and conscious spiritual connection?
I don't. Well, I'll leave you with the words of a very dear friend and mentor of mine, Martha Creek. And her one-liner, I just love it. It's go within or go without.
Wow.
And I'm just going to say no more. I think it speaks for itself.
That's powerful. Yes. Yeah, I got to remember that. I like that too.
Yeah.
Well, Reverend Brenda Schuck, I thank you so much for joining me today on Universal Consciousness. I hope you'll come and talk to us again. It was very
exciting. So much. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, and I thank you all for tuning in. If you want to see any of the other videos, you can always find me on Universal Consciousness with Dana. Be blessed, be prosperous, be you. Bye now.
Good night.
Bye.